our webinar with Mastermind for GoldMine. I want to first say thank you very much for taking the time out today to visit with us. I'm Rob Makalik. I am the owner and developer of Mastermind software, and I'm here to help you get the most out of your GoldMine CRM. So again, thanks for showing up today. If your company uses GoldMine, whether your implementation is really sophisticated and well configured and deeply used, or if your GoldMine hasn't got much beyond the common Rolodex stage, you've still come to the right place, because we're here to help you take your whole GoldMine experience to a much higher level. And you're going to find out that it's actually surprisingly easy. We're not talking about adding one feature to GoldMine here. We're talking about making everything to do with GoldMine better, which gets right to the heart of your business's success. So first, a bit about who we are. What sort of puts us in a position to be doing a webinar for you about fixing GoldMine, in the title there, Fixing GoldMine Without Turning Your Company Upside Down, is that we've been really in the GoldMine business for quite a long time. We are what I call a master GoldMine add-on, meaning one of the sort of early add-ons to GoldMine that has developed and evolved along with GoldMine over the years. We've been in over 1,500 companies that use the Mastermind application. And I will be talking today about this application primarily, but I want you to know that we are an authorized GoldMine dealer, and the focus of our business really is on facilitating, helping you to do GoldMine successfully. And we use the Mastermind tools to do that. A lot of GoldMine dealers, your own GoldMine partner, might well be a provider of Mastermind as well. Take what you hear today as an opportunity really to more effectively do what you want to do with GoldMine. It does not require you to work with a different GoldMine partner really than you already do. So what are these GoldMine tools that we're talking about here with Mastermind? What we're really talking about is very simply end-user reporting, data manipulation, which means managing directly the GoldMine data itself, and process management. Between those, what we're doing is, or the way we're accomplishing this, is that we're marrying GoldMine with Microsoft Excel in some very particular GoldMine-specific ways. And you'll see all this here in a moment, and we don't know, so I won't belabor the point. What I really want you to know is this is something that a lot of GoldMine users like you have the experience of doing, essentially taking GoldMine CRM, which itself is the really the engine for collecting information and sort of moving it through your business, and bringing that together with Mastermind, so that the two really form a whole that is much larger than what you started with. And as you can see, we've got customers that have really taken this to the level where they have long-term success with GoldMine, and you can as well. So really getting to what we started out, our premise is that you have GoldMine already. You've been working with it presumably for a certain amount of time, or maybe you've recently implemented GoldMine, but you're going to almost universally run into certain issues. And these aren't issues, these aren't software issues with GoldMine. They are really the universal issues of people who use CRM, which are, and in particular today, what I want to do is focus on these ones that I've listed here, and then I'll go through. But I want to do this in a context of saying we're focusing on this particular scenario where you may have disorganized or untrustworthy data, where your workflows may not have been entirely worked out, or maybe they were worked out some time ago, and GoldMine was built to address or parallel those workflows, but they, over time things have shifted and they don't do that anymore. So your day-to-day in-office working with information doesn't really flow through GoldMine the way it should. So that's the scenario that we're talking about today, but I want to sort of leave you not just thinking that Mastermind only will help you with this particular scenario, but really in any kind of day-to-day operation of working with GoldMine. And I'll go into those a little bit here in a moment. But first, just to make the point, so today's scenario really is that workflows disconnected and unsupported by the data, and especially in those situations where you are sort of, people are threatening or really are actually long into the practice of not really valuing GoldMine, not using it the way they should, not really participating the way that they should in your GoldMine processes. And what I want to suggest today is that the solution to that is twofold. It is to actually manage your GoldMine data in such a way that you can effectively make the data parallel reality. And now on a day-to-day basis, of course, on a record-by-record basis, people are actually in your GoldMine doing that. They're trying to make your data conform to actual reality, filling in demographic information, changing addresses where those change, but also the kind of reality like, when was the last time I talked to somebody? I make GoldMine conform to it by adding a completed call record with my notes and my activity codes and such. These are all ways in which GoldMine theoretically can parallel what's happening in reality so that you can then do useful reporting and analysis on what it is that comes out of there. And what I'm going to suggest is GoldMine, like every other CRM application, is great at collecting information, but that information gets put in there by regular human beings who make mistakes, whose processes change over time, whose requirements of their jobs change over time, and bringing the GoldMine data itself up to today's level of what it needs to be is not something that you can really expect people to do on a record-by-record basis. You need to have some nimble, user-friendly data content management that allows you to some tools to do that management. And you need to have some reporting that also is dynamic and changes with the times, changes with the information needs that you have. And if you had those two things, what you start to get to, with regard to these GoldMine issues, is that the GoldMine information becomes organized, becomes parallel with what's actually happening in real life. So it gives you useful, meaningful information, whether it's for sales management, whether it's for general business management, whether it's GoldMine administration. All of that is, or marketing for that matter, all of that is something that you count on GoldMine to be able to do for you, but which, if it falls short, leaves you feeling very dissatisfied with your whole GoldMine experience, and frankly, can be threatening to the success of your business. So with that introduction, what I want to do is go into a live demonstration here, and I'm going to switch over to a live session where we can look at GoldMine and really dig into a sample GoldMine here. As I'm doing it, I want to first point out that this kind of a demonstration is available to you. We can show you Mastermind working with your GoldMine data before you buy anything. And so whatever I show you here with the demo database, you can think sort of it as with analogies. Your screen may not look exactly like ours does. Your fields may not be the same ones that we use here, but everything that's in GoldMine will be available for us to work with. And again, I wanted to sort of emphasize, not just for this scenario, but in situations where what you need is 1-minute reports that answer specific in-the-moment questions, you can use Mastermind to accomplish that. For facilitating marketing with list segmentation and extraction of the list from GoldMine easily, and actually having information flow back and forth between GoldMine and your marketing platform, even if it's an online platform, Mastermind has tools that will help you do that we're not going to really talk about today. For coordinating sales efforts with activity monitoring and forecasting and past sales analysis, all the kind of things that you would normally want to be able to do in reporting. We're not going to go into that today, but these are with similar functions that I'm going to show you. You'd be able to accomplish those in your GoldMine database. One other example is just monitoring your office workflows and catching the errors that happen in just the administration of GoldMine. These are all things that you'll be able to use Mastermind for. So with that, I'm going to switch over to a live. Hopefully, I'm going to switch over to a live screen here. There we are. And so what you're seeing here now, or you should be seeing, is GoldMine Premium Edition. And Mastermind, by the way, will work with any version of GoldMine back to version 6.7 SQL. And we even have it working in some earlier systems as well. But if I'm going to assume that everybody on this call has a GoldMine installation from, well, let's say from this century, and Mastermind will work for you. And so let's start with, what are the ways to address the sort of straightforward, the most common universal shortcomings of working with GoldMine or with CRM generally. I'm going to launch Mastermind here and give you a couple of examples. And as you can see, Mastermind is something that's really closely integrated with GoldMine. You'll see when I pull up the dialog, for example, to create reports, you will see fields labeled in there just the same as they are in GoldMine. Mastermind is smart enough and built closely enough with GoldMine that it really looks like it's natively a part of GoldMine almost, where it's something that you are not expected to know a lot about the underlying tables of GoldMine or any of the things that really only a technician is likely to know. Other thing that I'm going to point out here is, as I mentioned before, Mastermind is Excel-based, and that means what Mastermind creates is Excel workbooks that continually interact with GoldMine. That means you create them once, name them, and you can bring back those workbooks, those Excel workbooks, bring them, by opening them up later on through Mastermind. These are still Mastermind-specific workbooks, but when you open them up, they refresh with current GoldMine data without any extra work by the user. You don't need to, in a lot of organizations, you actually do use Excel together with GoldMine, but the way you use it is to do these one-way extractions of data, where you might build a list in the contact center and right-click and do an export of a one-time export of data of the columns that you happen to be looking at into Excel, and then you can do some work with it. But then when you're done with that, you're done. You're not going to be able to refresh that data. When you want to see a similar outcome or similar information a month later, you're going to have to go back and start from square one again. With Mastermind, it's not like that. Mastermind is creating ongoing working tools for you that you can just recall as needed. And in this case, in our launch dialog here, you can see I've actually got sort of a master folder in Windows here that contains some subfolders that has reports of various different types, and I just named these subfolders, with utilitarian kind of names that mean something to me. But in a lot of our customers' organizations, they'll have subfolders that correspond to certain users or certain departments or whatever makes the most sense for them. Just wanted to indicate this is extremely flexible. This organizing of reports and the ability to call them back and reuse them is something that applies to everybody. So now I'm really sort of showing you a couple of examples of existing reports here, but what I'm going to start with is the scenario where, again, you've got GoldMine, you've been working with it for a number of years, you've got data in your GoldMine that you probably don't really have any way of having a good, solid understanding of. You can't get an overview of what's in GoldMine, what's missing from it, where are the problems in the data, and so on. So I'm going to start by just creating a new Mastermind workbook. Now, when I hit the Create button here in the Launch dialog, you'll see that it's going to bring up an interface that really allows us to address GoldMine data from a number of different perspectives. I'm going to start with a fairly simple report that is really just an overview of the contact level information. I'm going to move the dialog to the side here. If your go to webinar dialog covers the right-hand part of your screen, I encourage you to click and minimize it. or if anything else pops up on your screen. But I want to point out a couple of parallels between the GoldMine interface and the Mastermind interface here that I've launched. So this, again, what we're going to do is create a new Mastermind workbook. But I want to point out we've got customized field labels here. In your own database, you've got customized field labels, and these labels will follow straight through into Mastermind. So record type, industry, score, you see that's the name of the fields here. Actually, all of the fields that are in GoldMine are available. Basically, anything that you see in the user interface is available in either the kind of main screen of Mastermind, depending upon what you choose here, or in templates that are built in. And I'll show you how these will work. So again, I'm just going to do a report on main contact level information so we can see an overview of what's in this GoldMine database, and I can show you how dynamically you can interact with GoldMine from there. But before I do that, I just want to point out we could be doing these reports on pending activities, completed activities, for analysis of sales activity, or for whatever you track in GoldMine. You can do reports very easily here. Actually just by clicking on a couple of buttons. If I were to do a report on history, for example, I choose history. I can choose the type of history that I want to pull, the types of history records, within those which fields to include, and all the fields associated with history and contact level information, including custom fields, are all available here. So again, just lots of, essentially, if it's in GoldMine, you can work with it. I won't today go into the templates very much, although I will come back to the create dialog here so I can show you some examples. So to start with, I'm going to do a simple create report. Now, if you wanted to, you could explore Mastermind yourself by downloading it from our website, installing it on your machine, on your workstation. Doesn't need to go on your server unless you have a terminal server, in which case, obviously, it has to be on a terminal server. But you could install it on your workstation where you have Excel already, and you could actually create your own Mastermind report doing this. I encourage you to work with us because it doesn't cost you anything, and we can guide you through it one-on-one using GoToMeeting when you do want to look at it further. But I'm just saying you could actually explore doing exactly what I'm doing here. So I've got some fields selected at the main contact level. I want to be sure and get a few of the relevant ones though here. The 5 key fields in GoldMine are automatically included, as you can see, plus the contact company and state and the source of the leads. This is all by way of making it easy for you to do analysis of what do we actually have in the way of leads in our database. Now I've got some other custom fields here: priority, sales stage, last year sales, and so on. And just by way of doing an example here, I'm going to sort alphabetically the fields that I have not checked on yet. And I'm going to go over to priority, which is P, and sales stage, which is there, and year-to-date sales, which is there. And you can see, it's no big deal to actually include them in your reports. By the way, if you do know the underlying names of your fields, but you don't actually know the labels, or if you have the kind of GoldMine installation where you're using and reusing the same fields for various purposes, and therefore they have multiple labels, you can always do things like toggle back and forth between the underlying field name and the user label. Okay, so with that, I'm just going to do my first Mastermind Overview report. I'll actually call it Overview here, because I always like to name my reports, my Excel workbooks, by something that has some utility that explains what it is that I'm looking at. Excuse me. And as quick as this, it does our query, pulls information into Excel, and again, setting it up in such a way so that the next time we want to refresh our data, we're not going to need to go through that create dialog again. We're just simply going to open this workbook, and it will refresh while it's opening. And in fact, we can even hit the refresh button here, and you'll see it. Oh, it actually happened too fast for you to see probably, but it requeried the GoldMine data so that we were looking at the current as of this moment information. So from here, if we wanted really to get an overview of what all we had in our database. Now, I've only got 351 records in here. This is a demo database. Yes?
I'm going to interrupt you for a moment, but someone's asking if you can, and I'm thinking they're not seeing it too well, if you could maybe make your Excel look bigger.
It should be filling the screen.
Yeah, it's just it still looks kind of tiny. So like your zoom at the bottom of Excel there, if you can maybe zoom in a little
Oh,
bit.
so this would be, so somebody has a very small aspect
Right.
ratio maybe? You know, I can do that a little bit, but it's also going to make it very hard for people who have normal screens to see it well, I think.
So it's more specifically the GoldMine windows.
Oh, the
So
GoldMine, okay. Let me go ahead with this as we've got it so we don't throw this all off too much.
okay.
Carnegie, are you telling me that you yourself this all looks tiny and hard to see?
It's a little tiny. And
And you've got,
GoldMine, I'm not sure what you could do about GoldMine, but
okay, and you have GoToWebinar maximized on your screen?
I do.
Okay, let's, I think I'm just going to continue with this unless people have a specific suggestion about what might help them. Okay, so, and again, when you do a live demo of Mastermind, you'll be doing it on your own machine with your own aspect ratio, and it'll be easy enough for you to see what you need to. So, a couple of examples here on how this can look. So, since this is an overview, I'll pull in the record type field here, which is record type. That's in many GoldMine instances, that's the key one field. You might call it contact type, or it's some sort of differentiator that helps you to see what really the largest division of your contacts in your GoldMine database. If you don't have a record type field, don't panic, but there's a good chance that you do and can use it for these purposes. So this quickly breaks down my total records by a count of how many different values we have in here. Notice that one of the things we have in here is not only the type of value, the values that you expect to see, the ones that are in the lookup list for a field, but also the typos, the past ways of considering. You know, maybe some users call them clients and others call them customers, but really they're sort of, those are equivalents. And so today in our lookup for that field, it probably says customer. But there's all this past information that was left there earlier times that needs to be dealt with. This is one of the things that Mastermind is going to allow you to do very quickly, is to see your data not only according to the way you expected to see it, but really according to the reality of what's there. Now, why is that really important? Because at some point you're going to add additional information in here. Now, in this case, I did it in column. I put sales reps in columns going across, and if you were to do the equivalent of this with, say, Crystal Reports or with some other report writer that was not as user-friendly and not as snappy to work with as this is, you'd be going back to the technician who created the report for you, when you looked in here and well. A couple possibilities. One would be they would have built these columns to look for ones by Jane O'Hare and Lori S. and Nancy H., but they didn't know that you actually had some data in the database that say Leslie, or that say a typo of Jane O'Hare's name or whatever. And since they're programming each column to specifically look for a certain value, you might wind up just simply not knowing or ignoring these other records that aren't there. Now, by sales rep name, that might not be such a big deal, but there are other times when information like that is really crucial for you. So this is just an overview of this report of our database here. Now we're just scratching the surface as far as what you can and should be doing with your GoldMine data. What I'll do is clone this sheet and take this same information and lay it out instead as a selective, let's say by industry, let's say in the engineering industry, list, including the company and the contact of each person and the priority A, B, or C, and where are they in our sales. And you can see that where's our sales stage? There it is. And you can see that building a list from here is really quite easy and quite fast and user-friendly. Optimize those columns here so we can see which we want to see. And again, once I've built this and saved it, and I want to do a report next week, not of the engineering leads, but of somebody else, it's easy to actually go in here and make that new report in the course of a couple of seconds rather than have to reprogram a new report to do the same thing. This will also interact with your GoldMine database much more effectively, or well, it'll interact and a Crystal report is not going to do something like that, or even a built-in GoldMine report. It interacts in a couple of important ways. One is, here I've gone back to the tab that has the original pivot table here. And when I want to do a report of, let's say, let's look at these prospects. And I was going to do Nancy's prospects, but let's do the one where we've got everybody's prospects, 146 of them. Again, double-clicking on the report is an easy, user-friendly, interactive feature that allows you to see the detail that's behind any of the numbers in the report, any of the summaries or dollar amounts or any of that stuff. And it also integrates or interacts with GoldMine from here. So if I'm looking at my report and I actually want to work my way down this list and make phone calls, or I want to look at these records actually in GoldMine for some reason, I can just double click on them and in this case Uptown Systems, and have it go straight to the GoldMine record. And I can go back and forth really between GoldMine and Excel and very quickly work my way down this list, either to fix information in GoldMine or to actually take an action, make a phone call, complete an activity, whatever it might be based on my report. So I will go into a couple of additional tools here. One important one for reporting purposes is, remember I mentioned that we might have various ways of showing information. Mastermind has these wonderful tools built in for actually doing reporting and for practically grouping in this case for reporting purposes without actually even fixing my data. What I might want to do is take some of these things, like I took the various ways of saying customer and roll them all up into a single row, and that just makes it easier to report here without actually going through a lot of the work that you would normally have to do to normalize this information. Let's call this prospect. So I've taken my various ways of saying customer, my various ways of saying prospect, and pretty quickly consolidated those down into an overview of my database that makes more sense and tells me something. Again, this is a small amount of data here. In your larger amount of data in real life, you will find that it's that much more effective to be able to address your information this quickly and easily. And so now this is just for reporting purposes, getting the information normal. You might be done with the project. You might be done creating the setting up, getting the answer that you wanted to get. But if we wanted to actually take this a step further and talk about mass updating or managing your GoldMine data, another thing that you might want to do is get the information onto the spreadsheet and fix it here in Excel, and then with that fixed information, fix GoldMine. That actually sounds like maybe a big project, but it's not actually. If I use that same drill down thing that I did a moment ago to list everybody that says customer or various variations on the word customer, and I decide to normalize this field by making them all say customer over here in Excel. And all I did was I took the top one and I double-clicked on it, and that copied it all the way down the column. Now, for the purposes of Excel, those all say customer. Then we can take this a step further and update those in GoldMine to do the same thing. So in the course of just a few seconds, it runs through all 46 of those records, updates them all to say, where they used to say client to now say customer. And here we are. And so taking as an example, focus business systems that used to say a typo of the word client, and now it says customer, and if I double click from here, you see, calls that up, and you can see it says customer in the record type. Now mass changes, fixes like that, as you can see, they're very fast, they're very easy. It's also powerful, not something probably that you give to every user of Mastermind, but you can selectively give these capabilities to certain users. Your master license of GoldMine will contain this ability, but adding it for other users actually costs you a little extra, so you will probably give it out more sparingly. By way of pointing this out, though, it's actually quite safe to do updates using Updater. And I have just lost my mouse. It's only happened to me one time before in a webinar where my mouse battery went dead. Hopefully this will stay with me here. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to undo those changes because I want to put my data back how it was, but also note what that means for you. You do temporary changes to your GoldMine database, or you make a change that's a mistake. Unlike virtually any other data management capability that you've ever seen before, Mastermind actually allows you to put things back the way they started in most cases when you mass update in GoldMine. So I've actually gone back now and undone that. So if I go back to Focus Business Systems, you'll see it has that misprint of customer in there, or of client. The updater capability, I'm just going to point out one more thing about this. There's full webinars we've done just on updater because there's just a whole lot of capability you have with this. The updater interface here has a very simple version, which is just a straightforward take this field, take this column in GoldMine and put it into that field in the same GoldMine table. But there are also advanced features built into here that really give you a full panoply of tools that you can use to effectively manage your GoldMine data. So not only to update existing data, update fields record by record, but also to do things like manage email addresses in GoldMine, which are very hard to manage because they're actually in separate sub-records connected to the main GoldMine record. And there are primary emails and secondary emails in GoldMine. It's really quite a lot to manage, and Mastermind has tools here that make it very effectively to do that. Websites, likewise, are sub-records that are attached. Delete capability, so the ability to selectively find large sets or even small sets of sub-records in GoldMine. Sub-records are really all of the things that are under tabs in GoldMine. Whether it's the details tab, history, pending, opportunity, everything that you can imagine, Mastermind can help you to manage those sub-records in such a way that you can clean up all that junk that's been accruing over the years, or that was part of an old project that you're not doing anymore. Mastermind can help you to do that stuff. I'll point out one other important feature here, and that's completing things. So taking old pending activities and completing them over to history so that you clear out your alarms and clear out your the stuff that's scheduled to happen in calendars, clear out calendars of things that never happened and are never going to happen in order to get GoldMine down to where it really reflects reality. And if you use the GoldMine, I'll point this one out too, if you use the GoldMine email functionality, you probably know that you've got email is a portion of your business that you don't control what comes in. It just pours in and pours in every day, and that can bog down your system and bog down really the usage of GoldMine if you are not careful about it. So these tools will help you to manage that kind of thing. In this case, you can either we have the possibility of deleting old email that's just hanging out there, or filing email messages from the inbox into history, so that it gets cleared out that way, and really makes the system much more efficient and effective. Finally, I will point out one other thing there. We have the capability to create additional records from external data to coordinate marketing activity. For example, the results of your constant contact activity, or the results of your MailChimp, or any other outside activity that uses GoldMine data, where you want the return or the result to be reflected in GoldMine and the GoldMine tabs. Mastermind can be an effective way of accomplishing that. One other really important thing I just want to point out with regard to this updating part of it, this is not just for cleaning up data. You can also do things like take key history information and put it into GoldMine. So I'm going to switch back to the GoldMine interface here again. And I apologize if you can't see this. I hope that you'll be able to see the GoldMine fairly well. But in this case, we've got like a year-to-date sales field and a last year sales field. That's information that can be, it might be in your history, it might be externally somewhere in your accounting system, but with some sort of a logical a way of logically connecting the GoldMine records to the accounting information. That's all stuff that we can help you with the purpose of allowing a sales rep, for example, to know as soon as they pull up a record, here's how much they bought from us year to date. Here's how much they bought from us last year. I can prioritize my calls, so I'm calling the people who are the biggest customers, or who are let's say the lowest customers this year, but who bought the most from us last year. So in other words, it's a way of more intelligently and actively attacking the opportunities that are in your GoldMine database by sensibly applying some management of the data and some management of how the users use GoldMine. These are all things that Mastermind added on to GoldMine facilitates for you. Makes much easier to accomplish things. Okay, so functionally, those are just some ideas and thoughts about how to use this information. You will have your own ideas about what a report ought to, how a report ought to be laid out in summary like this, or in detail like this, with filtering, with columns going across the top. This is all very easy and fast and user friendly. We can train you how to do this. We can set up reports for you very efficiently. But if you're comparing this, hopefully as I'm showing you this, you're at least comparing this in your mind with what your alternatives are. And your alternatives typically are, well, reports are just too much trouble to try to do, so I just won't do them, which means you're going to fly blind. Or I do get reports built sometimes, but it's kind of expensive, and I have somebody, I have an outside person that I go to do that for me. But very quickly you're going to find that you don't have to do too many rounds of having somebody build your reports before simply having Mastermind, maybe with a little bit of support, really is a far more effective and a far more cost-effective way to go about doing that. Okay, so the interface, so basically the interface of Mastermind with Excel, of GoldMine with Excel through Mastermind is the main thing that I wanted to show you today. I'm not going to go through all this functionality. There's really quite a lot in Mastermind. I'll just point out that there are a lot of tools here for making Mastermind easier to work with as a report writer, but also to integrate it with GoldMine so that you can do things like take Excel reports and share them with GoldMine users by putting them on their GoldMine taskbar. There's really quite a lot of interaction between Excel and GoldMine. So don't think that just because you can extract, a page from GoldMine into Excel, or because you know how to build pivot tables or, little parts of this, that you're covered already, so to speak. This is really a whole new way of addressing GoldMine and making it work for you. So unless there are specific questions regarding functionality here, what I really want to do next is just kind of wrap this up, give you an opportunity to ask questions, and bring it home for you. So Carnegie, just in case, are there any questions that I have not addressed here?
There are not right now.
There are not. Okay, excellent. All right, so so I'm going to go back to a wrap up here with. Oops, get on the right page there.
One did just pop up.
Okay.
Costs.
Excellent. That's part of the excellent question, and that's part of the wrap up. So I'll talk about what results you get out of this, and then I will talk a little bit about costs, and I will talk about how we can follow up. So first, so just to kind of wrap up, what I've been talking about for the last 20 minutes here. Obviously, the purpose of Mastermind is for you to be able to get fast, efficient reporting at a low cost. That's part of the purpose. That, of course, means you have informed, confident salespeople, less wasted time hunting through history or otherwise avoiding customer contact. If you've got easy reporting like this, you can fulfill requests for information from executives, far faster than you've probably been able to do in the past. It's obviously easier to do, and in some cases, reporting that you didn't used to do because it was just too hard to do, now you will do, and you just stop flying blind by having easy reporting. And as I say, there's a great cost differential between doing it this way versus custom reporting in Crystal or Crystal Reports or any other method. the value of quickly fixing your data and maintaining it over time should be fairly obvious, but basically if GoldMine information is reliable, you have your users actually using it for what it came there for, and if it's not reliable, you essentially have a crippled system there, and it's not the fault of your users. It's just that over time, that's what happens when humans work with data. It gets less reliable, and somebody needs to manage it from an overview perspective, and not just record by record. So you will have, fewer opportunities falling through the cracks, fewer people really rebelling against the GoldMine system. You have a system that works. And I think the last thing here that I'm going to talk about is empowering. What you will have as a result is empowered GoldMine administrators. Even administrators who are not SQL gurus, who don't know how to, off the top of their head, write a SQL query to bring out information, or if you just don't want to be dragging people out of the IT department to be doing that sort of thing, or they don't want to be dragged. This is a way of accomplishing far more with far less back-end knowledge of GoldMine. I think I'll just sort of leave that as well enough and say really in the end the payoff is with GoldMine users. If you have people who are enthusiastically using GoldMine, who believe in the data, who drop the resistance to using GoldMine, then and who gladly work within your system to bring the company forward, that's really what you're aiming for with GoldMine and by adding Mastermind to it, so that you in the end have a truly coordinated sales and marketing departments within the company and make GoldMine work. Okay, so cost-wise, Mastermind. I'm not going to. I don't actually display it here on the screen, but I will. Before I talk about how to follow up here, we do publish our prices on our website, which is www.mastermind.net. Ballpark-wise, for a master user of Mastermind, you're talking about $1,795. You can get Mastermind without Updater for less than $1,000. You can also expand upon that master user by giving other users, making it easy to deploy reports to other users and have other people create reports. That first master license, as I say, $1,795. The second and third and fourth users of various aspects of Mastermind, whether it's the creating capability or the updating capability, are considerably less. So following up from today, what we're asking you to do is get a free guided tour of GoldMine. You essentially can schedule an online demo of Mastermind. We can run through it and answer your one-on-one questions with our own demo database, or we can actually apply it to your data, which is typically a huge eye-opening experience for our user, even for the people who don't get licensed. I mean, just to see into your GoldMine data and understand what you have and where the problems are, and actually be given a roadmap for how to get that stuff fixed is a huge step forward in what you can do with potentially do with GoldMine. I think with that, I've got about a minute left on the 45 minutes that I wanted to do for this. I'm going to
have some.
Yep, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. Let me just put up the last slide here. So there's our contact information. So with that, go ahead, Carnegie. Let's take questions.
Okay. Do you need a license or for every GoldMine user? I think you kind of addressed that, but just make it clear.
So no, you do not. You need a single master license for one user, and you optionally can add additional licenses for other users.
And can you refresh a Mastermind report but restrict the information to a date range, i.e. October 2016 sales?
Yes, absolutely. So that restriction, when I was showing Mastermind before, I had it filtering by industry with the industry field, but you can just as easily do that with dates with either individual dates or group dates like years, months, weeks, or by even odd date groupings like, everything from July 23rd to, October 15th, or everything starting with a certain date and up to the present and all that kind of stuff. Lots of functionality, lots of capability within that.
And back to pricing, is this an annual subscription or is this the initial then maintenance?
So it is a one-time purchase in the price level that I talked about, and maintenance is 20% of that. So on an annual basis, you would pay 20% of the starting cost plus whatever seats you add or whatever, and that's it. So right, your Mastermind, if you only got the master license at $17.95, you essentially a year later would have the option of continuing with maintenance at 20% of that, which a little short of $360, and that entitles you to the current software as well as ongoing technical support. And by technical support, that means just making sure everything's working properly. What did I leave out? Updates of the software, I think.
Very good. And got another one. Can you add data to a Mastermind report by using VLOOKUP from a separate spreadsheet and then updating the data in GoldMine?
Yes, you absolutely can. You can, and we have various ways of doing that. So depending upon, and VLOOKUP is a great way of doing that. I think you're thinking of a situation where you're, let's say, taking information from some outside source and you want it to wind up in appropriate custom fields in GoldMine or whatever. You want to update existing records. You absolutely can do that you have to do that within the Mastermind interface. We can also, you might want to talk to us about strategies for doing that. I have seen where people do that process, but it's a little bit of a manual one, all that VLOOKUP stuff. And if it turns out that the information that you're pulling, or that the source information is, let's say, your accounting system or another application that's capable of outputting data into Excel, where originally there can be some sort of a back-end connection between the data. In other words, the query itself might actually connect up, join GoldMine table with a non-GoldMine SQL table outside. We can actually accomplish that within Excel and do that on a much more efficient basis. So for those of you who are not technical, I apologize for the technical answer there, but the short answer was yes.
And I think that answered one of Steve's other questions about bringing data in from another software product. Mm-hmm. We're getting a lot in here. What are our business hours for tech support?
Business hours for tech support are 9 to 5 Central, U.S. Central Time, whereby that's the official hours. Typically, you can get us outside of that by appointment, or you can get help with various things. I should also mention, so there's two kinds of support. Tech support is helping you make sure everything's working properly. There is also report writing support and data management support, the kind of thing where we get online with you using GoToMeeting and actually help you, do the report you want to do or manipulate the data. And that kind of help is not covered by the maintenance, obviously. That's something that we can do for you, and we typically do. So I don't have a slide for it here, but we do. You buy a support pack, which is a pack of quarter-hour units, because our help is usually very fast and quick. We don't want to be charging you for an hour when all we did was get online with you for 10 minutes. And with that kind of support, you can pretty easily go from having an idea about a report that you want to do to actually having it done and in front of you on your screen in a very short period of time. Could be, 15 minutes later you have what you need, where you were anticipating taking hours to do it. Again, long answer to a short question there, but an important one.
If a subscriber needed support to learn how to use Mastermind and business applications of the tool, that's not the technical support, I can tell you that one, and is it an additional fee?
So yeah, and that's what I just went into.
Right, and I think just to add a little more on top of that, a lot of our customers or people that get one of our packages that do come with an hour of free training to get you guys up and moving. And let's go to the next question.
And just if you'd like to learn more about that, if you go to our website, mastermind.net, and look under the menu at the top, Order Now and Pricing. I believe that's where it is, or Order Now and Price List. That will show you some of what some examples of packages that include software as well as some additional ongoing report writing support. And there's also a menu there for the other additional seats and so on.
And to the question with the VLOOKUP, can you then do the update to input the data from the outside XLS into a GoldMine field, or do you only update the GoldMine fields that come via Mastermind?
It is the first. In other words, yes, you can take that information that's in Excel and put it into, you don't have to have originally pulled that field from GoldMine to be updating it back into GoldMine. It'll address any of the fields that are associated with the contact record, the target contact record that you're aiming at.
And I think that finished off questions, unless there's more that comes in.
Okay. And let me expand just a little bit on the answer that I just gave. So sometimes you want to be putting that information into contact level records. It is also possible you want to be, let's say, adding history records, or doing something down on the tabs in GoldMine, those little sub-records. And there are many cases where updating to those records is also necessary and possible using Updater. So if that's the end of our questions, I want to thank you all very much. You are obviously a very attentive and interested audience. I appreciate that. Appreciate you taking the time today to learn a little about Mastermind. Please, in the very short term, set up a demo with a Mastermind sales rep so that we can look together with you at your GoldMine data and figure out where the big payoffs will be applying Mastermind and applying Updater to Updater being a part of Mastermind, but essentially applying all of that to your GoldMine database to make your GoldMine system work better. All right, thanks everybody, and thank you Carnegie for the support today.
Thank you, Rob, and have a good afternoon, evening, everyone.